Hi, I'm Shauna. Welcome to the channel and welcome back to a new video. In today's video, I am sharing with you how I set up my 12-week year. I'm sharing all of the pre-planning, all the things I did to get into the right space to create a plan for the next 10 weeks. And I'll walk you through my goals and everything I've done to set it up. So let's get started. Before setting up your actual 12-week year, before determining your goals and your strategies, I think it's really imperative to create a vision. And this is something the book recommends, as well as basically everybody who has done a video on the 12-week year. And the reason for that is intentionality, because your 12-week year is ultimately just 12 weeks of your life. And in my opinion, you want to have whatever you're working on in that short 12 weeks be aligned with what you envision for yourself and your future. So there are 4 things that I did in the visioning stage before I went in with the goals. The 4 things I did were to explore values, brainstorming what I call the $500 million question. Number 3 was brainstorming my life in a couple of iterations. So number 1, core values. A lot of people just kind of start in the envisioning your life in 1 to 5 years. I feel like that's nice, but I think before you do that, you need to determine what matters to you most in life. What are the things that create an aligned life? Things that make you feel fulfilled, content, or if you were to die tomorrow, these are the things that matter to you most. I personally find it more helpful to use like a worksheet or like a quiz or something like that as a jumping off point for this specifically, because just journaling, like, what are my core values, can be like a really hard place to be in if you've never thought about it before. Like, what are they? Like, what do I care about most? And I do think that, like, in a lot of ways, a lot of people are going to say like my family or my friends. And I think we can get a little bit more specific than that, and things that might govern different parts of your life or all parts of your life. So I used like the quiz and the worksheet as a jumping off point, not as a place to say, that's it, figured it out, whatever this quiz says is reality. No, it gave me something to think about, to iterate, and to, noodle upon. I was thinking about things like, is love or beauty, are these things actually core values? And when I was able to sit down and kind of think about this thing as a value, I got to the point of, no, I'm not actually thinking about beauty as a value. What I am thinking about is noticing that there is beauty in this world within myself and around me, and being able to see it and appreciate it. That's not really beauty, that's actually gratitude. There are some journaling prompts you can do to help you think through this question. I'll link some like test quizzes, journaling prompts down below. And once I had this kind of more general list, I didn't worry about narrowing things down right away. Once I had this general list, even some quiz results, I was able to be like, no, that's not actually true. One thing that came out was contentment was on like nobody's list and like nobody's quiz, and having that absence was felt very strongly. I felt it very strongly. I know that's a value of mine, a core value, but seeing its absence made it feel even more strong. Like I was really fighting for it. And I think when you're in this stage of like determining core values, also understanding like why you want to develop them in the first place is important, so like you buy into it. If you're just creating core values for the sake of like someone in a YouTube video told me so, like I think it could allow me to live an aligned life, if you're not really sure why or the purpose that it serves, it's just kind of doing it for doing it. So one thing that has kind of guided me through this process is this quote. You can think of core values as an internal compass of principles that drives a person or organization's decision. And the purpose of core values is to drive the choices that you make. And you can ask yourself, is this in alignment? They can become like a yardstick to weigh your choices around. And once you develop your values, you can ask more pointed questions instead of, is this a core value or does this align with my core values? You can think along the lines of, does this foster contentment? Is this something that's helping me with my self-growth, or whatever you've determined to be your own values? The last thing I borrowed in terms of helping me think about my core values is actually from James Clear and his integrity report. I will link that and the articles they have in terms of core values below. The one thing I really liked about James Clear's integrity report is that it has his values. So there's like a main category. I'll put a screenshot so you can see what I'm talking about. So he has the larger value, and then he has the smaller, kind of more encompassing value or adjectives that are a part of the larger one. So as you see, there's growth, learning, adventure, taking action. Then he has questions. And this helped me. I used this method when creating my own values, and it helped me consider questions to ask myself about like what this value means. And then you can, of course, do your own integrity report every year. Ultimately, in terms of creating them, it can help you think through like, what do I mean by community? Why is it important to me? Step 2 is to think about the $500 million question. Now, a lot of people, when they're thinking about this idea conceptually, is they'll ask like, what is your dream life? What does that look like? Or like, what would you do if money wasn't an object or an issue? All of these are wonderful questions to help think you through your limiting beliefs and ultimately the dreams for yourself. A lot of us have personal holdbacks, things that we're not actively going for or doing because like we believe we can't or shouldn't in one way or another. For me, those kinds of questions, while I like the outcome and the intention, they don't work for my brain because they lack reality. I get the point of dreaming wildly, but even the richest billionaires on the planet literally cannot do anything that they want. Like, it's not truly the sky is the ceiling. There are limitations on who can become a president. There are limits of physics in this world. There are limits. And so my question of what would you do with $500 million is a way to get at that same question while also basing my answer in some kind of semblance in reality. I can dream as big as I want because $500 million is a life-changing amount of money. If you truly want to be as out of the world as you can think of a larger amount like $2 billion. But the point is to give me some kind of foundation that's based in reality that's also going to ask me to dream big. And $500 million is a life-changing amount of money because it can allow you to work or not work if you want to, start up almost any business or endeavor that you would want, to have almost any lifestyle that you would want. Another similar question could be, if you retire today with $500 million, what would you do? These questions solidified a couple of things that I think were always in the back of my mind, but never really solidified. And when you solidify something, you can gain confidence in that choice. When we give ourselves this, this colossal amount of money, we can think about like, what things are we not doing because of money? And that can give us something to work towards. And some things might be obvious, like you haven't bought a house because they're expensive. But then it can also be like, I would love to go to a writer's retreat, or I would love to go see my mom every year, or things like that you're not, or buying a specific course, or buying some kind of tool for your self-development or business, or something for your child. We learn about things that are actually important to us, but we're not doing or buying truly because of money, which matters. One thing that was really solidified to me was that if given the opportunity to not work, I wouldn't take it. Sure, if I had that amount of money, I would work less, but having a career that is fulfilling is very important to me and a life that I deem fulfilling. When you have this kind of money, or you're envisioning your dream life, I think a lot of people are envisioning their lens or their lives through the most ideal lens possible. I found myself envisioning the kind of house I would have, the kinds of habits I would have, like how I eat, how I dress. And thinking about these things can solidify habits and components of your life that are actually really meaningful and important to you that maybe you're not doing now. And this is a fun exercise, but also you can reveal a lot of truths about yourself. So listen to your answers, like really earnestly. I answered this question with 4 main categories: love and relationships, the material, the self, and the career. So like that kind of helped me structure things a little bit. The next thing was imagining my life. In this question, you're thinking about where would you want to be in, I don't know, a year, 3 years, 5 years, something like that. The $500 million question is about getting out all of your big dreams out there and allowing yourself to dream as big or as large as you would want. The actual real life questions are about taking some of those dreams and making them a reality. Now, I have seen people conflate these two a lot. They'll say like, imagine your dream life in 5 years. Well, they'll say they'll set the dream life with the deadline, usually 5 or 10 years. No matter how hard you dream, I just want to give an example here. I was just hearing somebody talk about this, saying like, imagine your dream life in 5 years. I think that was her phrasing. And it just like, it bothers me because I feel like it encourages like a lack of reality. I want to give an example. The average PhD in North America takes 7 years. You can dream all you want that you're going to finish it in 5, but like 99% of people are not. So saying you're going to finish it in 5 years is like, what? Completing a PhD can truly be a dream activity. And if you're working towards it, like you can still accomplish it. It just is no less of a dream or an accomplishment because it takes longer than 5 years. I also don't think you need to do specifically 5 years. You could do 1.5 or 3 as your maximum, depending on where you are in life. Because one of the things that I mentioned in my previous video was like changing careers or changing your actual like vision for one part of your life. I had no idea what I wanted to do career-wise a year ago. So having a 3-year plan is useless. You can go ahead and figure out my career or what I want to do career-wise as something to put into a 1.5 or 3-year plan. And maybe you still go ahead and make a 3 or 5 year plan anyway, because your career is not the only thing about you. One of the things that's important to do here as well is to put in like skills and habits that would be necessary to complete the things that you want to complete. Let's say you want to start your own business and you have, I don't know, like launch business. Maybe more specific than that, but we're going to go with this as well. Or maybe let's say you want to become a lawyer. And maybe you're already in law school and you want to take the bar and then become a lawyer. What kind of skills and habits would you need to be the lawyer that you want to be? An example for me in terms of the self, I wrote that I want to make living in my body and mind a joyful experience. I want to be happy and appreciate who I am, my talents, my skills, all of those things. And so as like a way to do that, in 1.5 years, I wrote, I will continue to identify and cultivate habits of gratitude and contentment. I will continue to pursue creative projects that fulfill me, most especially if they are hobbies that are not monetizable. Creativity for fun is necessary. If you want to own your own business, do you need leadership skills? Do you need time management skills? These are things to work on or to put into your plan as well. I've found that when goal setting, I'll think about the big outcome. And an example would be becoming a social worker, opening my own practice, like working for myself. That can be a goal, but we also might need skills and habits in order to do that. So sure, you need to create a plan to open your own practice or business, but the skills that you might need for that might be like learning about marketing or social media marketing. You might also need to learn about like how to build a website. You might need to learn about how to be a leader or a mentor if you want to have people working with you or for you in your practice. So not only do you need to market your business, which is something that you might have highlighted, you need to learn about marketing. And you need to be able to grow your marketing skills in order to market your business effectively. The last thing is the visual representation. I'm a millennial who loves the Pinterest board, so I think visualizing your life and the things that you want for yourself can be incredibly important, and you can romanticize these things in ways that are like healthy. And the visualization can give you something to actually look at when you're not sure what you want or like you're feeling down or uncertain. And then not only do you have the visual component where like you can physically see the life that you want, but then you also have the written component where like you've talked about your dream life and your goals and all of that. Let's now hop over to Notion and looking at the template. Now, let me walk you through the template that I have. This one is from Holly Jane, and I'll link an alternative from Montel B. This was one that I was considering. Both of them like could be great for your needs. So let's go. I've kept the base the same. I've opted out of my 1-year goals simply because I truly want to give this a great attempt at thinking about this as one structured unit of time and not buying so much into the annular way of thinking. So we're just focusing on my 12-week goals, and I have 3 main categories, which are work, we'll say like something that's really value specific, authenticity, and then creativity. Both of those are like really high level, like core values. I do understand that the 12-week year is a productivity tool. And so it does make a lot of sense to do things that are work or career related, but you don't have to make the 12-week year about that. You can make the 12-week year about any kind of goal that you want for yourself. For each goal, I have a why, which like I've added. This wasn't in the original template. And then I also added the costs and benefits. So if I'm ever in a moment where I'm like, I don't want to do this, I think about the benefits. From the original template, I just put each week in a like little toggle. And then I have added a little chart here. Initially, there was just like a checkbox, and I put that in to like kind of test it out, as well as a weekly reflection. But this was ultimately like the test. Which one of these methods do I prefer? And I ultimately prefer this little. So up at the top, I have my period, July 24th to October 1st. I also have a halfway update, which would be 5 weeks into the 10. And then I also, in order to help me create a focus, I added like a word for this, calling it a session. I don't know what else to call it. And I have processes and systems. Ultimately, my goal for everything is to lay the foundation and kind of take as long as it takes to lay a really good foundation for all of the things that I want to do for like work, my own personal work, and really setting up a good like workflow and system for creativity. Creativity is something that I've identified as a core value. So it's really like, how do I lay the foundation for a creative habit and a creative life that is sustainable? Working hard to explore last year, that kind of fell off a little bit for me. So like exploring what that means, and not only being able to say like, oh, authenticity is the core value, but like, how does that look like for me? Like, what does that actually mean? And this is a foundational thing because it's like a foundation for what I've qualified as a happy life. So I'm not going to walk you through all of my whys. Ultimately, creating whys, I think helps your goals be sustainable and gives you motivation. So we'll talk about like the work one. I feel like that might be most relatable. So in terms of why, I've talked about how the content that I've created is misaligned with my vision and I'm calling it my brand, but I'm really just speaking about like my vision. And I didn't want to use the word vision because I didn't want to conflate it with life vision, which was something that I have been using throughout this process. So I just put brand and I knew what that meant. And so this has resulted in low quality and consistent content that I do not feel great posting. And I have a strong desire to change that. And then another why is that I need a new process that helps me to be consistent and brings my vision for my channel to life. I burned out, I've yet to recover, and this is a large part because of this misalignment. So the goal that I ultimately have is to develop a system for posting consistent and quality content that aligns with my vision while nurturing my community and preventing burnout. I have a lot of brainstorming, which is kind of what's been happening this week. I also have creating a social strategy, researching workflow strategies for content creation, like a posting schedule, and then posting and iterating. I also have a fall content brainstorm on there. So there's some bigger picture stuff of what do I want my channel to look like? What kind of content would be meaningful to me? And how can I nurture my community? I also have workflow strategies, things that can make doing the thing that I want to do the easiest it could be. The closest thing I have to a lag goal would be creating a posting schedule. I was really intentional about removing lag goals, hitting a certain number of subscribers or earning a certain amount of money, because those are part of it. Sure, I would love to have a larger community so I can reach more people and have a larger impact, but ultimately what matters more is aligned content and helping people and having an impact and nurturing that community. And that's something I've believed in since day one, but can get lost if you're always emphasizing those numbered goals. I've also decided that I can add on goals to here at any time. And if I've gone through and I'm one of my goals is to nurture a community, have I put enough on this list to actually do that? I think my approach to goal number 2 might be helpful if you're trying to consider a goal that you're not actually sure about the outcome. So one of the things that I have is I want to, create strategies or, exploration to what this means. I don't know what authenticity means. I don't have strategies yet. So one of my goals is to develop a list of ideas and then execute. So if you're, let's say, looking for a job or you're not sure what you want to do or something that is unknown, just writing out that you want to brainstorm ideas and then also create time to explore your strategies can be very helpful in creating a process, even if you don't know the outcome. And then lastly, for creativity, I wrote that I want to maintain a sense of creativity and imagination in my life by pursuing creative projects and hobbies that fill me up, inspire me, and nourish my soul. Almost everything on here isn't monetizable. It's just a hobby and making sure I create time for things that I find creative without trying to force it. I have read one book a month that I find nourishing or inspiring, creative, relaxing, and I haven't put a qualification on what that means. One book a month is very attainable in that category, maybe even more. Maybe I read 4 books this month, but one kind of gets the ball rolling. So after I have all of this, I can refer to it anytime. I have my little task list with all of my goals and which category they belong to. There are some dates here and it allows it to be flexible because if I don't finish these today, I can just change them up. I also have a weekly reflection that I can just type in right in here. Just looking at this now, because I built this last week, I wish that I just did the one so I can test out the questions after I fill them out and then iterate for the next couple of weeks. What percent of target did I hit this week? How do I feel about that? I'm a little torn about whether I really want to focus on on target and also what does on target mean for some of these less tangible goals. So I also have how accurate was my plan this week? Do I need to change or adapt anything? Do my goals and strategies still feel realistic? What can I do in the following week to continue great progress? What is one win of the week that I feel proud of? So that's everything from me today. This is my plan. I'm already a full week in, and I'm making progress. It is slow, but there's a lot of mental work for me and thinking through like what I want and like what things are supposed to look like or what I would like them to look like. And when you're doing a lot of the brain noodling, it can be a lot. It can be a lot of like, it's a lot of mental work. And so it's okay if progress is slower, and that's okay because you need the foundation in order to start executing. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and hearing about how I've set up my 12-week year. If you would like a mid-year update, let me know in the comments, and I'd love to know if you're planning on doing a 12-week year, and if you are in the middle of one, how's that going for you? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.